Welcome back into the Blurred Wire, everybody. It's your host, King Whale. And today I've been thinking a lot about ever since I saw the Marvels again in theaters. And I really liked it. Like again, I gotta say, it's one of the more enjoyable films that I've seen as of late. I think, for anyone that not even identifies with, but anyone that enjoyed the family dynamic of Miss Marvel will really enjoy this show. Because I think when I was looking back to Miss Marvel, like, it's not that high up on my list for me. To me, it's like the first three episodes are the ones that really, really stood out to me. And then once they went to Pakistan, which I knew was an important part of discovering her heritage and culture and all that stuff, that's where it kind of fell off for me. Because it was just harder to follow, and I felt like we need more time to get to know Kamala. Like that, they could have made if they made Miss Marvel longer and maybe doubled the amount of time that we saw her going back and forth between, because the show is, it's about a Pakistani Muslim girl living in America. And so, seeing more of that in those episodes would have been really nice. Would have been really nice. But anyway, back to the Marvels. So I think anyone that enjoyed Miss Marvel will enjoy the Marvels because it really tied everything together. And like I said, I thought I did a great job with Carol Danvers' story, and now I understand her and I'm invested in her. Before, I was not. And so I thought this movie was going to be saved by Kamala Khan. And it was, but it was also saved by what Nia DaCosta did with Carol's narrative and the way it all tied together. I don't know if that was going to be the plan before. I don't know if they were going to have, Carol Danvers destroy the Supreme Intelligence in her sequel. I mean, because I think going back, I honestly think the idea of putting Captain Marvel in the 90s and having her introduced there and all that, I thought all of that was kind of a mistake. Because, 2008 was supposed to be this introduction to the superhero world. And then it was like, oh, by the way, they've been here since the 90s. Or like, we had a brush in with them in the 90s and somehow it all got neatly covered up, I guess, or that's why S.H.I.E.L.D. started. I don't know. But like I said, I didn't think it was that great of a choice. Also, Carol is like 67 right now, so that's fun. But anyway, going back to the Marvels, I thought it was a great film, and it made me think a lot about Young Avengers and all the different projects that, could spin off of this. Like, the Marvels could directly peel off into, first of all, a third film, and that could be the Marvels. I don't think it's going to happen, especially if we don't get a Nova project, but like, to have Annihilus be the villain for the third, Captain Marvel film, I feel like would be incredible, especially because they kept calling her Annihilator. And I know it's not that big of a connection, but it would be cool to me. Like, as a comic book fan, like, that would be cool. And, it's kind of hard to come up with compelling villains for Captain Marvel because Dar-Ben wasn't that compelling. I understood what she was doing, and I understood why she was doing it. So she had good motivations. It's just the execution. I don't know if that's what Nia DaCosta wanted when she casted Zawe Ashton. I'm not that familiar with Zawe Ashton, so I don't know how she usually plays roles. But, some people, like, it almost seemed like she had, like, a mental delay. It was, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It was weird. Like, she seemed, like, almost unsure of what she was doing, but sure of it at the same time, and, like, crazy. And, like, the gold grill in her teeth, I don't really think worked. And, like, when she talked, she was, like, looking past you. It's like they tried to make that, a lot of people want to go for, like, that crazy villain and stuff. And it's like, you really could have just had her as just a normal person who totally thought what she was doing was right. Like, she didn't have to add in all these extra stuff to try to make her personality seem more sinister and, like, the way that she walked. It was just like, no, I'm taking resources from these planets so I can save my own. Like, she could have been a lot simpler. But anyway, the Marvels has set up a potential third Marvel's film, Captain Marvel film. I think it actually sets up Deadpool 3 because I don't think there's any way that, I think that's the Fox universe that they're in. And I don't think there's any way that this doesn't tie into Deadpool 3. And so I think as we get closer and the Marvels gets on Disney Plus, I think we'll see the streaming of it. It's also a really great family movie. So once it gets onto Disney Plus and Iman Vellani can talk about it, I think it's going to do well on streaming. Kind of like how Blue Beetle set a lot of streaming records on HBO Max. And that's also kind of hurting the blockbuster genre in general because it's like, if you have HBO Max and you're paying $17 a month, Well, you're probably not going to pay for your family to go see it $17 each in the theater because, I mean, why would you do that? Especially if you got for, like, I'm just going to save the money, wait a little bit. You know, if I was a dad, I would definitely just have HBO Max and wait till it comes out because even if my kids complain, like, oh, we got to go see it, then I'd be like, take your own money and go see it. I go see it because I have Movie Pass and I work for MovieWeb as a video producer. So, you know, I got to stay up to date on these things and I don't like being behind and I don't like spoilers. So that's just me with all these Marvel movies. But especially when you know the biggest blockbuster superhero movies are all going to be available to stream at some point, it really doesn't matter. Like, I think that's part of why Barbenheimer did so well because you don't know when or if Barbie is ever going to be available to stream. You don't know if Oppenheimer's ever going to be available to stream. I'm kind of getting off topic here when talking about the Young Avengers, and I'm not suggesting that Disney take stuff off of Disney Plus or get rid of Disney Plus, but it's kind of that thing like studios are, because if you don't put your movies on Disney Plus, well, then no one's going to subscribe to Disney Plus. But if your movies are all in theaters and then they go out to Disney Plus, no one's going to go to theaters. So it's like for big companies and stuff, you got to start looking at your revenue in different ways. You got to be okay. You got to change your marketing strategy. You can't be greedy. Like a lot of these studios, Warner Bros. And Disney, they're trying to put their hands in two different pots, you know? And it's like, you know, some people call it superhero fatigue and all that stuff. I really just think Disney wanted to get into streaming and it's screwing up their theatrical releases. HBO Max also wanted to get into streaming. It's also screwing up their theatrical releases. You know, Spider-Man No Way Home, I think partly why it did such great box office numbers is it's still not on Disney Plus because Sony has it. And a lot of people that saw it going in know that. So, I'm totally getting off topic. This was supposed to be about the Young Avengers. Anyway, so I definitely think the Marvel set up Deadpool 3 and that storyline. I don't know if Monica Rambeau is going to be in it or something, but that's going to play directly into Deadpool 3. It also set up Young Avengers, which has been a long rumored project, and I don't know if Marvel actively has plans for it, because I don't know if Marvel was ever planning on doing a Young Avengers project. I think they just wanted to introduce, like, you know, kind of the next generation of, they wanted to introduce these characters that all happen to be part of the Young Avengers, and so many people were like, it's obviously coming together. They were like, why not? And having Kamala recruit Kate Bishop, I think, was pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of ways that they could go through this. And I had this really cool idea that would have worked, my own personal theory on the Young Avengers, but I don't really think it can play out now because they haven't done Fantastic Four and haven't really gotten into it. But let me get into the theory, and then in the comments and everything, you can let me know what you think, right? So, my Young Avengers theory was, at some point, the Eternals are going to meet up with the Avengers. Now, this is very important. The Eternals are going to meet the Avengers. I don't know if we're ever going to get our Eternals 2, which is really sad because they're an important part of the narrative, and just because the movie was reviewed so badly, we won't get a second one. And it's like, yeah, you know, reviews, you want it to be profitable, but you still need them. They're still a part of the story. Like, there's parts that have to go through them. You can't just ignore them now. So at some point, the Eternals will meet with the Avengers, and I honestly think Kang Dynasty is going to get pushed back to 2027, because I don't know. There's so many movies they want to do before that. They want to do Brave New World. They want to do Thunderbolts. They want to do Armor Wars still. They want to do Spider-Man 4. They want to do Shang-Chi 2. And they want to do Blade and Fantastic Four. That's 7 more movies that are supposed to come out before Kang Dynasty. And the only movie coming out in 2024 for Marvel is Deadpool 3. Now, I think Captain America Brave New World could be moved back into 2024. I think especially once Deadpool 3 comes out and, like, the, you know, the reception and everything. But I guess they're doing reshoots and stuff, and I don't even think that we need, like, to me, the Captain America Brave New World movie, we don't even need it to move towards Secret Wars. Seems like those other projects are a lot more impactful to it. But hey, that's what we're getting. So anyway, my theory is that somehow, maybe that'll happen in Kang Dynasty, but the Avengers will meet with the Eternals and they will have to work together. And Reed Richards, who will be introduced in Fantastic Four, probably will meet with all 4 of them all three of them will come together in the Avengers film. And again, would have been cool if Reed Richards has been here all along, but that's not what we're going to get. So, if they all meet together, then I think in Avengers Kang Dynasty, their fight against Kang, which again is kind of hard to see exactly how it's going to happen, because I loved Loki too in the way it wrapped up. And I guess there's a bunch of Kangs running around, but Quantumania ruined a lot of Kang theories for me, and also ruined me questioning how strong he is, because it's just like sick some ants on him. And even if you have an army of Kangs, Hank Pym has an army of ants, and for every Kang, there's probably thousands of ants. So just have them do whatever they did, go through another dimension, get all, advanced, and then they can just defeat the Kangs. So I don't really know how the Kangs are still going to be a threat. To me, Quantumania completely ruined that, but I guess we'll have to see. There's only one way to find out. So now with all the Kangs fighting the Avengers, which again, I don't even want it to be like an army of Kangs. Like, it should be Kang, one villain. Like, an army of Kangs doesn't make us like, oh wow, they're so strong, or that's so crazy. Like, it needs to be one guy. That's just not how, Marvel Comics works. So, I think it would be super cool if we saw at the end of the Kang Dynasty, I even had this really cool idea for like if they did an Eternals 2 movie, which Thor kind of set up but didn't really, to introduce Null as the villain, especially because Null is the original wielder and creator of All Black, the Necrosword, because they never talk about where the Necrosword came from. And we still kind of, like, while they destroyed it, I mean, I feel like Null could just put it back together. And they haven't really hinted or done anything to indicate that they want to do Null, but doing a movie called Eternals King in Black would make a fantastic movie, because Null could return, and he could have, I came up with a whole storyline for him, right? Like, imagine, based upon the way the Celestials work, like, they bring matter and life. And so Null could have been the personification of darkness. He could have been brought to life by when Celestials introduced matter and life to his corner of the universe. And that's what turns him into Null, like this godlike figure who has the planet Clintar where he has a bunch of symbiotes on it. Well, in other realities, he rules Clintar, and that's where the symbiotes are from, like in Spider-Man 3 and in Sony's Venom universe. In our universe, what could have happened was a Celestial could have been born into his planet, and it could have been Erisham specifically or someone else, and they could have emerged through the planet and destroyed all of his creation. It's actually a perfect way to make him go from a benevolent ruler to absolutely incensed. And, the celestial godhead that makes Nowhere, which I really thought if Guardians of the Galaxy had tied into this, it would have been cool, but I know their job really wasn't to tease Null. But maybe even having Star-Lord in the second Eternals might be a cool way to kind of keep that nod going, because they said Star-Lord will return. But anyway, Null would have created Nowhere when he beheaded that Celestial with All Black, the Necrosword, which is the storyline in the comics. That's how it works. Null beheaded that Celestial that made Nowhere. And we've known about Nowhere since 2014. We just didn't really know how the Celestial died, because Celestials aren't supposed to die. So that same Celestial could have been the one that emerged through his planet, and then he just decides to lop off his head because he's mad because he killed all of his creation. And it would have been like, that's a very compelling storyline to indicate why, a guy is evil. So then Null could awaken in our reality, in our time, based upon, Venom. Like I said, it's hard for it to work now because it's been so long, but the Venom symbiote was in our universe for a very brief period of time. And so, that world being destroyed could explain why there are no symbiotes in our world, as well as the Celestials could have all come together and locked him up in a prison because they can't kill him because he's a god. So, Null could have been locked up in a prison, but then Venom coming into our universe, another symbiote coming into our universe, could have awakened him from his prison, because there's, he shares his power with every being that he creates, and that could have given him enough time to break free. And they could explain this entire time he's been searching for the Necrosword, but like I said, it's really hard to see where it could pan out after this. But, anyway, if that was the case, then Null could then grab his Necrosword and start killing all the Celestials in Eternals too, which would create an interesting dynamic because like the Celestials are kind of the enemy with Eternals, but they're also not. But Null could kill all the Celestials, and then he could plan to take over Tiamat, who's currently stuck in Earth, and make Earth the new Clintar, because since Tiamat is emerging through Earth, he can take him over with the Necrosword and turn him into a symbiote Celestial, which is a very popular comic idea in the King in Black storylines from the comics. So, I say all of that to say, that's how Null could threaten Earth and like overrun it with symbiotes, right? And then Eternals 2 could be all about them trying to defeat Null and stop him from turning Earth into Clintar. But this all could happen after Null has killed all the Celestials in our universe. So Phastos, seeing that, is worried about an incursion because without life creating, he worries that our universe might be destroyed. And, because while suns are exploding and stuff, he might be like, it might accelerate the process and we might all die. So the end credit scene could basically be Phastos creating a life raft. And he could be doing it with Reed Richards. And Phastos is the perfect guy to create a life raft that could sustain an incursion. And so that's where we get to the Young Avengers and the Secret Avengers, because the plan could be, Young Avengers, Secret Wars, and Kang Dynasty, because the plan could be when the Avengers have to fight Kang and Kang Dynasty, it could cause an incursion so rough and kill so many Avengers that in order to survive, the Young Avengers all get into the life raft, which would make sense because, the main event, we still have a main Avengers team, and they're not going to want the Young Avengers to be fighting a threat as dangerous as Kang. They're probably going to be like, while we go fight Kang, you guys keep everything together, which is kind of how the Time Runs Out storyline went, but it's not exactly. So anyway, Avengers are trying to fight Kang. They lose, cause an incursion. The Young Avengers are in the life raft. The Young Avengers come to the life raft because, Makari could gather them or something like that and put them in the life raft to try to survive the incursion. And when the incursion happens, Reed Richards could be planning to go in the life raft with them, and then he could fall out, while the world is incursioning and all these things are happening. And what we wouldn't know in the background is that Dr. Doom, which again, it's really hard to introduce Dr. Doom now and have him be the focal villain of the multiverse saga when we haven't met him at all. So that's the tough part. I don't see him becoming the Beyonder or anything like that because we don't know him well enough. We haven't seen him well enough to believe this. But I digress. So, and then to set up Secret Wars, it could either be a Young Avengers film that comes before Secret Wars, or Avengers Secret Wars could be part 1 and part 2. And part 1 could be about the life raft, and all the Young Avengers come out of the life raft, and they're wondering what happened. And so in the Secret Wars comic book line, the one from 2015, there's this older man who's known as the Prophet. And in the comics, he is Black Bolt's grandson or something. I would change that to be Reed Richards. Reed Richards, when he fell out of the life raft as the universe was incursioning, it scrambled his mind and he ended up on this new world as a prophet. 8 years go by, Young Avengers come out of this life raft, and for Reed Richards, he could be spouting off all these prophecies when really he knows that the life raft is the key to freeing Battleworld from the God Emperor, who, like I said, they could, for that entire movie, they could make the God Emperor very, what's the word I'm looking for? They could make him very elusive, or we don't know exactly who he is. So they could just call him Beyonder, the God Emperor. So you don't know if it's the Beyonder from the comics, you don't know if it's Kang, and you don't know if it's Doctor Doom. And we could keep it like that for the entire movie. But the whole point is they have to get the Prophet to Sheriff Strange. They have to get the Prophet to Sheriff Strange. And it could be a funny movie because it could show them exploring Battleworld and trying to fight their way through it while trying to take the Prophet up to Sheriff Strange. Because no one believes the Prophet's saying, because Reed Richards' mind has been scrambled. He just knows the life raft is important. And, my brother and I theorized maybe he could be the one that opens it. He puts his hand on it one day or something. He finally finds it after all this stuff. And it could be a cool way to introduce to have like a Young Avengers film and show like why they are very important. Um, and maybe like a TV. I feel like a TV show would be really good for them too. Like I don't know. I wouldn't want it to be like Miss Marvel season 2 because I want us to go back into her family. I wouldn't really want it to be Hawkeye season 2 because I don't think we need a season 2. But if they just made, a one season of the Young Avengers of them, handling more of the street level threats while the Avengers get ready to handle more cosmic ready threats, it could be cool. And it could be a cool way to lead into Avengers Secret Wars where the Young Avengers will actually take center stage and then they'll work to bring him to Sheriff Strange. Once they do, they will learn the truth about Battle World, and all the different things that have gone on into it, and how to and how to restore reality back to the way it should be. And so I think all of that would just be really cool to have. The thing that's messed up by it, though, is the fact that we don't have enough Fantastic Four content. And so, because like if it was me, the minute that Marvel acquired 20th Century Fox, which I think was was either in 2017 or 2019. I think it was 2017 because then they released Dark Phoenix as kind of the last thing in 2019. Either way, I would have fast-tracked a Fantastic Four movie that would have kicked off Phase 4. I would have kicked off Phase 4 with Fantastic Four. Makes too much sense. But again, that's not what Marvel did. I don't understand they want to do it right, but at this point, they're taking too long for Fantastic Four to have any kind of impact on the MCU. So, that's my thoughts on where I think the Young Avengers could go. And I think like I said, I think it would be cool if Part 1 of Secret Wars, it would be cool if Secret Wars had a different name than just Part 1 and Part 2. But it's hard to think of what that second name would be. Maybe Part 2 could be called Battle World, or Part 1 could be called Battle World, and the second part could be called Secret Wars. I don't know. But I would love to see a storyline where Phastos creates a life raft, the Young Avengers are in it, they get freed by an old Reed Richards, who's really the prophet, and they have to take him throughout this hilarious but important adventure throughout Battle World in order to bring him to Sheriff Strange, where then we will get the second part of Secret Wars. So let me know what your thoughts, if you think that would work. I know I kind of went on a rant against streaming and against and what Eternals 2 could have been for King in Black. It happens. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and until next time, guys.